Hi, Jack Zero here. Just going to make a quick video today. This one's going to be about the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and their effect on the Australian academic community via their grant network. Now, what I'm going to do is, obviously I've got the website up here. This is the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation website. Very nice looking website, obviously. The guy's loaded. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you where to find the grants that have been made to all of these organisations all over the world. In case you don't know where to find this information, it's very easy. And then I'm going to open it up and show you the magnitude of the number of grants that have been made to academic institutions around the world. And then I'm going to drill down and specifically isolate out of those grants what's gone to our Australian universities. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is because, and I'll let the government actually, where are we? That's not it. Wrong one. Here we go. No, not that one. This one. This will do. Just ask yourself a quick question. Does money buy influence? It's a very big question, a very easy question to answer when you look at Australian political parties, for example. Donors don't donate money unless they get influence. And this is just an article that made it all the way to the BBC, going back to the 2019 Australian election. If you can remember that, back that far before coronavirus, because that's basically been the only thing that's been discussed in the last 2 years, almost. And we see that the government's very worried about it at the time. Funding controls in place. Cash. I'll just blow it up a bit. This is the article. Cash fills the veins of Australian politics as it does elsewhere. The opposition Labor Party is heavily relying on trade unions. Morrison is well supported by the mining industry. So millions of dollars flow into the coffers of Australian political parties. And so much so, with money flowing in from China, they decided to legislate to address that issue. This came out in 2017, and it was mainly because of the influence of Chinese donors. The government was worried about the influence of Chinese donors on Australian political parties. And you can see that with what happened to Dan Andrews with the Belt and Roads Initiative with China. But what I'm going to do is do a quick search. We'll search for Gates. Bill Melinda Gates even made the legislation part discussion paper on donations to political parties. Our charities claim that similar laws to the UK and Canada have been shown to have a chilling effect on the advocacy network of the community sector, and that charities regularly accept donations from overseas donors without risking foreign interference, such as from Bill Gates for medical research. Now, I would say that as far as political influence goes, in donating money to medical research is questionable for a number of reasons. Because, if you're if you want to create jobs, for example, and you encourage donations from organisations such as the Gates Foundation to set up research facilities in an Australian capital city, well, one could argue that that's attracting jobs. So it does have influence in politics, but as we shall see, it has more influence in other areas, and we'll relate that to coronavirus. I'll do it the best I can. I'm going to pause the video now, and I'm going to close this down. Actually, I'll just do it. Let's just go back to the Gates site. Right. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That's the first page. Let's blow it up a little bit for you. Go over to menu. Financials. Committed grants, sorry. And this, if you click this button here, it'll download. If you click here, download grants file, it'll download a file that's, oh geez, it's a massive file. I'll just tell you how big it is. I've actually got it open. However, it's a 30 meg Excel file. So I'm just going to pause the video and I'm going to bring that file across, the Excel file, and we'll see just the magnitude of the grants coming out of this organisation. Okay, this is the grants file that you'll receive once you go to that tab and download it. I've blown it up a little bit so people can read it. I'm not going to go through every line, just simply because when I show you just the magnitude of what the money that's coming from this organisation and the influence it exerts on public health research, medical research, vaccines around the world, you will be flabbergasted. Now, everyone just comes up with it, usually just say, oh, there's a number, it's you know, how many ever $1 billion it is. But it's only when you download the spreadsheet, realize how large it is. I'm just going to scroll down slowly and just look at the lines over here. So we're up to 15, 16. I'll scroll down right to the bottom, and you'll be in awe of the number of grants that this organisation has made to various organisations around the world, and exerts influence on those organisations. I've made a few tabs down the bottom, which I'm going to quickly go through when we get down to the bottom, but I'll just speed it up a little bit because I don't want to waste your time, because we're not going to go into any great detail. We could, if you want to let me know if you want to look at anything specific, but as you can see, we're looking at 29,364 grants since its inception, or since they started keeping records that were available to the public. It's just amazing how many grants. Now, if I scroll over here, I'm not sure if I made a global figure of how much money. I haven't. Well, we could do that as an exercise. What I might do is just quickly do a few things in Excel just to see how much money has actually been donated via the grant system. So I'll just pause the video for a minute, and I'll come back with a figure for you. Okay, I've done that behind the scenes. Sorry about that. So the formula that I've used to calculate that is G2, because this is column G where the amount committed is, to G 29,364, and there's a total of $69 billion. So $69 billion has been donated by this donation to various universities, the World Health Organization, UNICEF, World Vision. The list is so extensive, it's just unbelievable to see how much influence that this one organization has on the world population, the world health population. So what I've done is a quick breakdown in the tabs here. We'll just see how much. We'll get back to what I'm trying to show here is his influence in Australia on Australian universities, because I think there's a lot to be said for the organisations in Australia, our universities, and their stance on coronavirus, and the message that they're showing so much, I guess, groupthink when they're conducting these epidemiology explanations to the public. And we're going to get to that in a second, so just bear with me. I'm just going to pause it again, and we'll open up that page on the spreadsheet. Okay, so let's have a look at Australia. I'll click on the Australia tab. This is what it looks like. We'll just blow it up a little bit. Scroll across, and there's our universities. So in Australia, these are all the donations that have come to Australia. If I go back to the other page, it's easy to do. All you do is just go grantee country, scroll down, select Australia, and that's pretty much it. Copy and paste into this tab. So that's how I got this tab organised. So let's look through some of these names. We've got Curtin University. We've got University of Queensland, University of Melbourne, Monash University, the Australian National University, the Burnet Institute, the University of Western Australia, the University of Sydney, Menzies School of Health Research, Griffith University, University of Canberra, University of Queensland, Flinders University in South Australia, University of New South Wales, Charles Sturt University, University of Queensland, University of Adelaide. I don't think there's any university in Australia that hasn't been touched. That's the unfortunate outcome. Depending if you're a university, it's fortunate for you because you're getting a grant. But in the time of coronavirus, it's not fortunate for the public, and I'll show you why in a minute. So let's just scroll down to the bottom, and we will see what we have down here. We have over 200 grants made, 208 to be exact, and 331,452,337 US dollars donated to Australian universities. Now, if we go back to what the government was on about, talking about influence of cash and the effect it has on the narrative and the direction of our institutions. Now we've just seen from the 20-minute video on Bill Gates. We know what his priorities are. He wants to vaccinate the world. It's not just since coronavirus has come along. He's been wanting to do this for 10 years. He's donated billions of dollars, 60 odd billion dollars. And a lot of that has been channeled into vaccines. So it would be safe to say and not speculate. And I say that. It's not something I say easily. But it's safe to say without speculating that a lot of the grants that have been donated to Australian universities are benefiting the narrative that we have at the moment. So out of that $331 million that has come into the university sector from the Gates Foundation, and in the light of what's happened in Australia in the last 5 months, 6 months, especially with the Doherty report coming out and being used by National Cabinet and getting agreement for all state premiers and their public health officials to follow that narrative that came from that report. How much of this money, the 331 million, actually went to the organisations that the 5 organisations listed in the report as contributors to that research? And let's have a look at the organisation. I'll bring over the report, but let's just have a look at the modelling contributions to those organisations. So we got $90 million that was handed out to the organisations. That's the 5 organisations that were involved in the Doherty report. So those 5 organisations are Curtin University, University of Melbourne, Monash University, University of New South Wales, and the Walter and Eliza Institute of Medical Research, and of course the Doherty Institute. Now, for those that you don't know, the Doherty Institute's attached to the University of Melbourne. So, pardon me, the University of Melbourne was the main donor. So they got the largest grant. besides Monash. So Monash has got $18 million in grants from the Gates Foundation. Melbourne University's had multiple of those. So let's go and have a look over here. We can just select. Let's have a look at Melbourne University. That's Melbourne University. So they've received quite a large amount of money. The major grantee was Monash. So if I go to Monash, you've got 18, 26, 36, $38 million to Monash University. So they've got well over a third of that funding from the Gates Foundation. So now that we've shown that, and I'm hoping you agree with me that money does buy influence. So how much influence is the question. So before I go and open up the Doherty report and show you that the basis of its report, a lot of the references used were the two UK universities or higher education institutions, one being the Imperial College of London and the London School of Health and Tropical Medicine. So how do they sit in this Gates Foundation donation spiderweb, so to speak? Let's go and have a look. I've actually got them right here. So let's look at Imperial first. That's where Neil Ferguson works. This is the infamous Neil Ferguson who produced the now debunked modelling that was employed by the UK government, and it's been found to be a failed model based on mathematical modelling right back to the beginning of the 2000s with the MERS-SARS issue back then and N1H1. So let's just have a quick look. How much funding did they get? Well, Imperial College from the Gates Foundation has received $302,978,951 US dollars from the Gates Foundation. So let's take that formula again and think about it. Does money buy influence? So if money buys influence in London and Neil Ferguson writes the report that Bill Gates wants to put everyone in lockdown and wait for a vaccine, because vaccine is the answer. That's all that's been coming out of all of these universities as well. When you go back to the Australian model, these universities, ones that have received $331 million, if you look at them, look at it, you've got, especially coming out of the Doherty modelling institutions, those five. Sorry about that. Curtin University, I haven't heard a lot about that in the eastern states, but certainly University of New South Wales, we've heard a lot of those, their representatives come out, probably 3 or 4. University of Melbourne, definitely, that's Tony Blakely. He's always on the TV. Who else we got? Well, obviously got the Doherty Institute with Jodie McVernon and Sharon Lewin. Raina McIntyre from University of New South Wales, and I'll show you a chart of what this Gates Foundation grants, what it looks like on a sheet of paper in a PowerPoint presentation. Anyway, I don't want to digress too much. But anyway, Imperial, we know they got $302 million US dollars from the Gates Foundation. And the other institution was the London School of Tropical Medicine, London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. They got $300 million US dollars from the Gates Foundation. So there seems to be a little bit of a pattern. In the UK, $300 million for one of the institutions that form the foundation of the modelling for the UK government. The Imperial got $300 million, again, form the foundation of the modelling for the UK government. We go to Australia, 90 million for the Doherty and other four institutions involved in that modelling. They got 900 million, 990 million, sorry, 900 million. They got 90 million from the Gates Foundation, and Australian universities overall got 300 million. So 331 million for all of these universities. So all in all, that's probably about what, 300 million. That's $1 billion. So there's $1 billion paid out in research grants. Do you think that buys you influence? Do you think all the universities that you're giving that sort of money to would not write a report that suits you? That's my way of looking at this. The Gates Foundation they've got their hands in every single worthwhile scientific academic institution on the planet. The money is just so far-reaching, and the influence goes so deep. It builds those relationships. And we can go and quickly have a look at a few sites that I've brought up in the browser. Gates Foundation CEO explains why Australia is now in the front against malaria. This is 2018. So this is just an article. I'll just put Gates Australia. And they've even World Economic Forum. Rationale for more involvement from Australian researchers and government agencies and companies. Julie Bishop's involved. Foreign Minister Julie Bishop joined the board of the Bill Gates and Malaria Council. And Melbourne will host the World Malaria Congress next year. So that's just in plain sight. You go to the next one. This is actually on the Bill and Melinda Gates website. Australia research to fight childhood pneumonia. A grant from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to Victoria. Murdoch Children's Research Institute. Then we go, there's the Burnett Institute. They're the other organisation which I'll talk about in a minute that's got in on the act. But they receive Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation money as well. And then we go to the Australian connection. Murdoch Research Institute. Probably can't see that, so I'll just blow it up a little bit. $10 million to an Australian trial of a vaccine. There's Bill and Melinda Gates, Bill Gates, Scott Morrison in the same article. And if you scroll down, the startling fact is revealed that, let's not forget, on the 21st of April 2020, it was reported that Prime Minister Scott Morrison spoke with Bill Gates to discuss the future of the WHO. And then shortly after, he pledged $352 million towards a $12.5 billion worldwide COVID-19 research fund arranged by the WHO. Amazing. In fact, Bill Gates is so impressed with the response from our universities and our public health officials that he's backing an Aussie patch for the next pandemic. Can you believe this rubbish? Okay. Who is running Australia? Jane Holton, World Health Organization. We'll cover that in another episode. Won't do that here. Just stop this for a second and I'll bring over the Doherty report. Let's have a look at that. I did forget one thing before I move on to the Doherty report. There's another organisation in London. It's called the Wellcome Trust. The Wellcome Trust is basically works similar to the Gates Foundation. However, it doesn't make grants on such a grand scale. Now, this organisation, again, it's quick. I must have a filter on here somewhere. Okay, I've got it on Australia at the moment. So these are all the loans that are made to Australian institutions. And I have taken this and I'll paste it into another page. And this is what we have. So this organisation's made 60 grants over the last whatever years. Not as like I said, it's not as large as an organisation as far as grants go. However, it's still significant. 120 million Australian dollars has come into Australian universities. And the Doherty Institute organisations, those 5, have received the bulk of that. $82 million. So out of the 120 million, those 5 institutions received 3/4 of that. So when you put them together, that works out to, for those 5 institutions, $172 million. Now, I want to know if anyone that's watching this thinks that doesn't buy influence and doesn't get you what you want. There's something wrong with you if you believe otherwise. I'm just going to pause it there for a sec while I get the Doherty report. Okay, this is the report. Doherty modelling report for Cabinet. Let's have a quick squeeze through this. Whoops. Hope you can see that. All right. I'm not going to go through and read it. That's not the exercise here. I'm just going to go through and show you that the organisations that received the funding that I just showed you in those Excel spreadsheets, which are available from both the Gates Foundation website and the Wellcome Trust website, that they are involved in this report. So let's have a look. I'm not going to run through all this. This is my own, what I did myself when I went through the report, highlighting specific issues that I thought were vague and did not make this report a satisfactory report to base policy on for the whole country. I still don't. We'll go through that in another episode, but I'm just going to follow right through the end and let's have a look. We go to the references, should be there. I'll just pause it for a sec. Okay, now at the part of the report where they start listing references, which is what I'm after, page 22. You can see that it's Davies, Imperial Group, same as above, same as above. So that would indicate to me that Davies is for this article, and Nigel Davies works at the London School of Health and Tropical Medicine. I think that's what it's called. And this is all Imperial data, the Imperial College of London. That's where Neil Ferguson works. So this is Imperial College of London, this is Imperial College of London, this is Imperial College of London, that one. And they have one here that's not. I'm not sure where he works, but I'm pretty sure it would be either one of those 2 organisations. This guy definitely doesn't work there. Denmark data. Davies, he's London School of Health and Tropical Medicine. And then we've got a couple of tables, and then it will list all the references in detail, and we'll be able to see there quite clearly. Okay, Davies, definitely London School Hospital Health and Tropical Medicine. That's going to be Imperial College, Imperial College, Imperial College, London School Health and Tropical Medicine. So you can see that I'm telling the truth. If you go to those organisations and search those names, find out where they work, you'll see that they work for either one of those 2 organisations that received over $300 million in funding from the Gates Foundation. Now, the other organisation that we've heard from lately that the New South Wales government is using is the Burnett Institute's modelling. So how does that vary? Well, one only has to go to their website, the Burnett Institute website, go to the COVID-19 tab, and it will show you what's going on here. Let's have a quick squeeze. It's taking its time. Maybe it's a disabled privacy badger. That might help. Not sure what's going on with this website. Seems very slow. Let's have a look. Okay, this is the model here. CoSIM modeling. I'll just pause it for a second. Okay, the website wasn't loading properly. What I was looking for is this. Initial modelling projections for second epidemic wave in Sydney. And this is where we are now. This is the 12th of September today. This was done on the 7th. It was on the news. And it was talking about how this modelling related to the current situation in Sydney, and how Gladys Berejiklian referred to this on quite a few occasions in the last week or so. And we'll just see who influenced this modelling. We already know the Burnett Institute's received funding from the Gates Foundation. I can go back and we can look at that again. I might do that, but this is how the modelling explainer. So if you have a look at this, it'll open this page up, and this is explains what the paper is all about. Now you'll notice first thing here, developed by the Burnett Institute and the Institute of Disease Modelling in the USA. So who are they? Who's the Institute of Disease Modelling in the USA? Let's go and have a look. I'll just put that into a URL. We'll have a look. Go to their homepage. Very flashy. The Burnett Institute is liaising with these people, collaborating to do their modelling. And who owns this work? Who owns this institution? The Institute of Disease Modelling is part of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's Global Health Division. There's not a lot more you have to say to that. So not only do they receive funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates funding grant system, but they also, and we'll have a look, I'll go up to Burnett, see how much funding they do get. How many grants have they got? Quickly deselect, let's go to Burnett. They've got a few grants there. It's not in the millions of dollars, but it's 200, 400, 700. It's over $1.2 million they have received from the Gates Foundation. And then they partner with the Gates Foundation to come up with a report for the New South Wales government to use as an overlay to a report that was done by the Doherty Institute, where those institutions involved in that report received $90 million from the Gates Foundation. So there seems to be a little bit of a almost regulatory capture here from a viewpoint. If our universities are viewed as independent government-run institutions, it just seems like what's coming out of those institutions and used by government is basically the policy of the Gates Foundation. I hope this explains a lot. I'll finish it there because there's not really much else I have to say. Because the whole idea was to show you that, show you the influence of the Gates Foundation on our university sector. Thank you for your time.